Hello friends, and welcome back to my crafty space. My name is Crystal, and in today's video, I am going to be putting together my first spread using the Connect Story kit from Ali Edwards. So for today's spread, I am using all digital elements in order to create my hybrid spread. So before I actually get into the page assembly here, I am going to bring you over to my computer and show you inside of Photoshop Creative Cloud how I created some of these different elements that I printed off. Before we do that, let me just give you a little background to my story here. So what I decided to do was to take one of the 3x4 cards and turn it into a pattern paper, and this will live outside of the page protector. So this is printed on matte photo paper, which allows the color and the saturation to be at its peak, but also for it to have the texture of almost like cardstock. So this is going to be the base, and on top of this, I'm going to put these photos back to back inside of a pocket, which the pocket will be made out of these flowers. Now again, this is a flower that came from the kit itself. It was a 3x4 card, and I isolated the flower here in order to print off a bunch of them, cut them out, fussy cut them out, and then my plan is to place them along the bottom of this photo to create a pocket for the different elements to slide into. Now I did print this on 3 different types of paper. I have some canvas, some printable canvas paper, which is maybe my least favorite because it does change the color of the outside. It's really hard to see the dimension to those petals. So you really are only getting this centerpiece right here. So these are my least favorite. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to use them on here. I guess we'll see, but I'm leaning towards no, and maybe I'll hold those to the side and use them for something else. I then printed it off on that matte photo paper again. This definitely gave me the best impression because it is that really nice print, but it is still that cardstock feeling, so it doesn't give me any kind of textural element. Finally, I printed it on vellum. Now again, this is hard to see on the vellum because the floral element, the petals, are so light. But I'm still thinking about potentially throwing in some of the vellum pieces just to give it a little bit of texture, because when you intersperse these, it does give you a slightly different look than just having the paper itself. So we're going to play around with this and see what I want to do here with this floral piece, but I essentially will create a pocket with them. I will stitch around the 3 sides so that everything can slip into here, and then that is going to be my story for today. So let's head over to the computer. I'm going to show you how I created all of these pieces, and then when we come back, I will speed you guys up to take you through the rest of this process. All right, friends, so we're on my computer inside of Photoshop Creative Cloud, and I am going to show you a couple of the hybrid things that I did on the computer before heading over to the craft table. So the first thing I want to show you is how I took a simple journaling card. This one is one of the 3x4 journaling cards, and I turned it into a background paper. It's actually really easy to do this. You just need to open up the file and then go to the crop tool, which is, the 2 intersecting right angles there. And we're going to crop this down to the page protector size. Now you can either go with 8 1/4 inches tall by 7 inches wide. I know some people do that. Some do 6 3/4 of an inch wide, and that also works. I like to be a little bit more precise. Mine's 6.875 inches by 8.25. So it's really, whatever seems right for you. Once you get it to that size, you can adjust where it is sitting. I like it right here, so I'm just going to hit the enter button. And then we have our pattern paper. Now this zoomed in like way close. So I can just grab my zoom tool here, right click, fit it on my screen, or print size it. And that's going to give you a little bit better idea of the grains and how focused this piece is. So this is what I'm printing for my background paper. To actually print this out, I do print on 8.5 by 11 inch paper. So what I'm going to do is open up a new canvas, which for me is Control N, or you can go up to File and New as well. Inside of here, I'm going to open up an 8.5 by 11 inch page. Here's mine right there. We're going to create that. Here's my canvas. So this is the paper that I'm actually going to print out. Then I can go back to this paper that I just made. I can select all of it, Control or Command A, and copy, Control C, and then go back over to my canvas and paste it, Control V, onto my paper. This will allow me to move this around wherever I want it to go. I can add additional things in the white space if I wish. I can also turn this and then add more things. You know, it just helps me to not waste space on my paper that I'm using to print out. This I will print out using matte photo paper, just because the color and the saturation of the color is going to be the most accurate on the matte photo paper, but the feeling is going to be more similar to cardstock almost. Okay, so that's the first thing that I did here for our spread today. Next, I created a journaling card, and mine is 3 inches by 6 inches, but I used this 3x4 in order to make it. So to make my journaling, it's basically a tag almost. I am even debating cutting it into a tag shape. I'm not 100% sure yet. We'll see once we get back over to the table. But what I did is I am going to create a new canvas again. So Control N, or actually I can do it up here. So File, New. And this time I want to create one that is 3 inches wide by 6 inches tall. I just want to give myself some more space to write than what is on that 3x4 card. So now I can go back to the 3x4 card. We're going to select all of it, Control A, copy it, Control C, go back over to our 3x6 canvas and paste it. So now this puts it directly into the middle. Now what I want to do is I'm actually going to keep it here in the middle. I am going to paste another one of these down, and this one we're going to move down to the bottom here. Okay, actually, you know what, we're going to move it up to the top. Let's move it to the top. And then what's going to happen is you have this layers panel in the lower right hand corner, and you can see that layer 1 is the one that's in the middle, layer 2 is up on top, and then if I paste another one in here, that now gives me layer 3, which I can put down at the bottom. So what I want to do is to move the layer 2 all the way to the top and layer 3 all the way to the bottom. Then I'm going to go back to my layer 1. This is the one that's in the middle here, and we're going to bump this up in the queue. So that's going to come up on top. So now this gives me a perfectly evenly spaced green section and this tan section. The only problem is that I have this feeling connected to title up here twice. So what I'm going to do for that is I will merge all of my layers together first. So we're going to go up to Layer and Merge Visible. Once we do that, all of those layers here in that layer panel are going to condense down into just one. Next, I want to grab my eyedropper tool, which is over in this left sidebar, and I'm just going to click anywhere on the tan section. That way I can pick up the color, and you'll see it over here in these little squares. Now that I have this color, we're going to grab my paintbrush, and I'm just going to paint over that word, and it's going to completely disappear. Perfect, just like that. So now this is going to be my journaling card, and I can just grab my text tool, make sure I change my text color to whatever I want it to be, and then I can add a box and put my journaling on here. You know, so I might do one here and then do another one down below. I often get asked what font I use, so just while we're here, I can let you guys know that I use the Career Standard. Typically, I do the regular one, so just medium, but every once in a while, I'll use the bold version. So just an FYI, that is the font that I'm using. Okay, so that is element number 2. The third element is going to be the florals that are going to become the pocket on our spread. So for the floral portion, I am going to open up this card right here that says we are all connected, and it has this beautiful flower on it. What I want to do is isolate the flower away from the background so I can actually move these around and print out multiple on a page. So to do this, I want to grab my magic wand over here, and you might have the quick selection tool selected. If you do, so if you see the little, it looks like a paintbrush with some dots around it, you can just click and hold on that, and then a submenu will come up where you can select your magic wand instead. Now for me, I have my tolerance set to 0, which is going to be important because these colors are very similar. So I want it to only grab the white from the background. So when I click on the white, you can see that it's highlighting it right here. It's going to isolate just the white part. Now, before we can delete the background, we do need to come over into the layers panel and unlock this layer. If the layer is locked, it's considered the background and you actually can't delete any portion of it. So first you unlock it, and then it will become layer 0. Now we've got this selected, and we can go ahead and delete that portion. And you'll see now the transparent background. I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom section, highlight the white and delete it. And now this gives me my flower. So I can unselect or deselect, Control D, and all I've got left is my flower. So from here, I can take this, select all, copy, and then if I go back, you can see I can move them around wherever I want them to go. So if I wanted to experiment with how many flowers I was going to need to fill this up, that's how I would do it. And then also for printing this out, you know, I can grab my 8.5 by 11 canvas and then just put a whole bunch of them on here in order to print them off, which is exactly what I did. Now I will say that I printed these on 3 different textures. So I have a set of them that are done in vellum, a set of them that I printed off on some matte photo paper, and a set that I printed off on canvas paper, so printable canvas, because I wasn't sure which one I would like the most or if I would want a combination of all of those. So we're just going to kind of see what we think about that when we get over to the craft table. So those are the components that I created here before heading over to the physical portion. I printed all of these things off and then we are good to go. So I'm going to log off of here and meet you guys back over at the craft table so we can actually put this thing together in, real life. So I'll see you over there. Now that we're back at my craft table, I am going to get started by adhering the 2 photos that I printed here back to back. So I didn't want to leave the one photo, which ultimately this one with all of our hands in the middle, that was the main photo that I wanted to take for this spread. But I didn't want to leave the back unfinished where you could see, where it says the brand of photo paper and all of that. So I decided to just print a second photo, this one of my husband and I, and adhere that to the back of this photo. So it's, just a way to finish off the back and also add in a little bit of bonus stuff as well. So that is just pretty much going to stay that way. Then I've also got these 2 journaling cards. So the one is the one that I printed at its normal 3x4 size, and the other one is the one that I printed bigger with my journaling already on the card there. So I wanted to do the same thing with these and to finish off the backs of them as well. I pulled out this pattern paper, which I believe is from Maggie Holmes' Marigold collection. It's really pretty, and the colors are super complementary to the heart pattern paper or pattern card that came in this month's kit. So I am just adhering them onto the back side. One of them I did with the floral pattern, and this one I'm doing with the more graphic, I think it's a zigzag type pattern. And that way, when everything slips into the pocket and then when you pull it out, it's a little bit sturdier and it just is finished. And that's ultimately what I wanted it to be. Next, I'm going to take this little piece of chipboard. So this is one of the digital chipboard pieces. I printed it off on that matte photo paper and I added some adhesive to the back of it. And I'm going to stick it down on some what is that called? Chipboard? Some chipboard. This I get from scrapbook.com, and it's awesome because it is acid free, so you don't have to worry about it messing up any of your photos. And then it just allows you to create some of your own embellishments, give them a little bit of dimension, and then, I can stick that on my photo. You're going to see here, I'm going to put this on my photo and put it on there crooked because I didn't even line it up. straight on my mat or anything. I just stuck it on there. And then when I went to move it, I was like, oh no, that is totally crooked, and I'm just going to leave it for now and see if I can deal with it later. So all of that I'm going to set to the side, and now we're going to work on the pocket part of this page. The first thing I wanted to do was get it hole punched, since it is going to be outside of the page protector. That's also going to help me with placing the flowers on there in order to make the pocket. And then later I'm going to actually stitch all of these flowers onto the page. So it helps me to know where to stitch so I don't go through the holes and I don't break the thread by punching holes through it if I were to stitch it on there first. So that's at least my frame of thinking as I'm going through this. Now, I decided to forego those canvas printed flowers. I didn't really like the tone of them with the rest of this. I thought it was a little bit too brown. So I set those to the side, and I'm just going to work with the florals that I printed on the matte photo paper and the ones that I printed on vellum. I really actually liked putting the vellum florals in there because I felt like it gave this pocket a little bit more texture, which is something I was going for. That was my original intention in printing them on so many different types of paper. Now, to stick these together, all I'm doing is pulling up the little petals for where they're touching each other. I don't want the adhesive to show through on the vellum, so I'm just trying to add it on the underside of the photo paper and then sticking that down, hoping that it will hold everything in place until I can actually get it stitched down. So you'll see that I'm working on it here on the front side, and then once I get everything to where it's stuck together but I can move it, I'm going to flip it over onto the back side and work on getting everything adhered down on the back. The reason I will do that is because when I am slipping things into the pocket, I don't want it to catch on any of the pieces that are not fully adhered. So here is where you're going to see me pull some extra pieces up and make sure that everything is nice and adhered down, even the vellum parts, because on the underneath section, you're not going to see that vellum. So I don't mind that the adhesive is on the vellum in this place. So once we get everything the way I like it here, then I'm going to position it back onto the background paper. To help it stay adhered down until I can get it through my sewing machine, I am going to grab out my 1/8 inch score tape and put a little piece down at just the bottom. I probably could have done even less, like done a few little sections at the bottom, because it doesn't need a ton of adhesive to stay on there while you're stitching it. And then in the end, the stitches from the machine are what's going to hold it down like really well. So I mean, I guess it was easier for me at this point to just do a whole strip, but if you don't want to put that much adhesive on there because it could potentially gum up your sewing needle, then you could do just a couple tiny little pieces and then enough to hold it onto the paper while you are sewing it. Once I had that down, the next thing I needed to do was trim off the excess so that when I am sewing this, I can see exactly where those edges are. I considered just putting it through with those pieces still attached, but then I realized I couldn't really tell where the lines were of my paper, so I needed to go ahead and get those trimmed off first. So now that we have this bottom portion on here, I'm just going to test it there and see what I think. What I will do is pull over my sewing machine in order to stitch everything down. I ultimately decided on that chipboard piece that I did not like the fact that it was crooked. So I decided to pull it back up and see if I could put it back down without ruining everything. And, it actually worked for once, which was really nice. It was, that was a gamble to take it off my page because it could have left a bunch of adhesive in places where I didn't want it, but it didn't do that. So I'm pretty happy that I decided to just go for it. With my sewing machine, I'm just doing a straight stitch, keeping my stitch length pretty far apart. That is really helpful for sewing on paper, is to just make sure that your stitch length is longer than it would be if you were sewing on fabric. And then I can trim off the excess pieces and put these, the photo and the cards, into the pocket to just kind of adjust everything and make sure it all looks nice and tidy in here. I really love the way that this turns out in the end. I think it's really like feminine and floral and just really soft for this time of year. The last thing I need to do here is add my date. I'm trying really hard, you guys, to get better at adding my date onto my projects. So I just grabbed out my ink there. It's scrapbook.com ink, and then roller date stamped on the back of my journaling. All right, friends, that completes our spread for today. This one is so pretty. You guys know I love making interactive pages when I can, and this is definitely one of my favorite techniques, to just take a bunch of die cuts, whether it's circles or flowers or hearts or whatever it is, and layer them up at the bottom of a page and turn that into a pocket. I just think that it gives it just like this awesome texture down here, and then you have space to put a bunch of things inside of it to store in your album. So when you pull out my photo, there's the picture of us with our hands that says "This connection means everything to me," and then a picture of my husband and I on the back. These were both taken on Valentine's Day when we went to hang out at the zoo for a bit. Then I've got that journaling card that we made larger with the pattern paper on the back just to make it a little bit more substantial. I talked about feeling more connected to my husband ever since we had a heart-to-heart talk a couple of weeks back. Actually, it might have been a couple of months back at this point. And how we're just trying to connect through communication and like physical touch more. And then I also talked about how the beginning of this year I felt very disconnected because I felt chaotic and just like messy, and how I really needed to get that under control so I could feel a little bit more connected to me again. So that is my journaling there. And then I just have that quote that I loved too, that I added in here as well, with some more of that pattern paper on the back. I love that these tones went so nicely with this heart paper here. It was the perfect pattern paper to pull out for this spread. So that is it. That is my story for today. I hope that you guys have enjoyed seeing this one come together. I love this kit, this Connect kit, so much, and I can't wait to get the physical one here so I can actually play with the different pieces included in that kit. Now, if you haven't already seen, I did have a bonus lesson that was posted in the Connect classroom for Allie Edwards. So if you are a classroom subscriber, then you can check out some of the process videos I created using the story stamp. So I have 2 pages that I made with primarily the stamp set with Connect, and you can find those there. So there's some more content there if you would like to see it there. All right, you guys, so that is going to complete my stuff for today. I will be back again on Wednesday with my Project Life spread for the week. And until then, I hope that you all have a wonderful start to your week, and I will catch you all in the next video. Bye.